And welcome to another unsteady edition of Ben's Junk. So, this would mark the third Ben's Junk installment and my fourth discussion overall this season regarding my little ongoing quest to tune things up a little around here. And I think I'm done with the turntable stuff for a while, but I do have one more cassette thing that I'd like to do. Now, after doing the azimuth, the playhead angle alignment a while back, I did a bunch of tests on the tape deck, of course, with material that I'm overtly familiar with and also own on CD. And it seems like the tape's just a hair slow, and just that. And it's always been like that since I've owned this particular deck. And I really doubt the speed has been checked on my unit since it was in the factory back in the early mid 80s, if it's ever been checked at all. So I started looking for ways to calibrate the playback speed, and I found three basic ideas. The first involves an oscilloscope and a bunch of other expensive gear that I don't have. The second involves making your own calibration tape and stacking it up against a tone generator or a guitar tuner, playing a middle, if you will, A note, so 440 hertz. But this only works if you have another tape deck that you know is perfectly accurate. And then the third involves purchasing a third-party calibration tape. So guess what I did? And so I went online looking for a tape, and I was initially under the impression that, like the Geotape, they're just straight up no longer manufactured. And I was half right. So there were Sony, TIAC, and Nakamichi tapes on the market at one point, and the ones I saw on good old Fleabay were fetching around $100. But conversely, there were some new ones that were much more affordable, but were homemade and look a little more than dubious. So I went looking around elsewhere, and eventually I found that duplication.ca, which is a Canadian dupe house that specializes in analog stuff, was now manufacturing their own test tapes. So I went ahead and ordered one, and I think it was $8 for the tape and then another $8 for shipping to the US. And I'll post a link in the video description so you can investigate all this for yourself. But anyway, this particular tape has two tests, and it's got a speed test that you can check/adjust against a tone generator and or guitar tuner, and it has a wow and flutter test, which I'm not going to do publicly at least because amongst other issues, wow and flutter in the analog domain doesn't really transfer too well to digital. So nothing that I would play I think would be all that accurate or useful in this context. Now, as for the tape itself, despite being in a shell for potentially a Type 4 metal tape, if you know your cassettes, the tape stock appears to be just plain old Type 1. It has that lovely fecal brown color. But anyway, with that very appetizing thought in mind, let's pop over to the tape deck. Okay, I've got the tape deck open, and we're looking at the motor here, and there's a little hole in there with a screw in it that you can adjust the motor speed. And my deck is a bit of an odd duck in that this was apparently meant to be at least somewhat user serviceable because it had this plastic screwdriver in there, but the end of it seems to have gotten broken off at some point. And I have absolutely no idea what happened, but apparently this stuck out far enough at one point that you could stick a regular screwdriver in there and, adjust. But as such, I'm just going to have to use this. And if you don't have anything like that, I'd probably recommend using a plastic screwdriver or a ceramic one. Just, you're going to need it plugged in, just in case you touch something you shouldn't. But aside from that, I've got my old guitar tuner out. And then I've got this app on my tablet going, and it's just a freebie tone generator, and it's set for a 440 hertz sine wave. And so between the two, I think I'm good to go and maybe even see what works better or what I like better. But otherwise, that is all the talking I intend to do this time, barring anything catastrophic happening. And yeah, let's get down to business. And otherwise, I will talk to you again soon.